Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Experience Maker Show. I'm Dan Gingiss, customer experience speaker and coach. And I am so excited for today's guest because this is a company that, if you have heard me on the keynote stage, if you have seen what I write about, and even if you read my book that's coming out next year, you are going to see that this is a company I love to talk about. So I'm very excited today to introduce you to the founder and CEO of a little company called Punkpost, Lex Monson. How are you, Lex?
I'm great. How are you doing, Dan?
I am doing so great, and I really appreciate you being here today. You know I'm a big fan of Punkpost and a user of Punkpost. Why don't you tell people for the folks that don't know, tell us about the company.
Yeah, so in short, Punkpost is a way to easily send handwritten notes to people you want to connect deeper with. So you can go to our app or website, you pick a card like you would at a traditional greeting card store. Here's an example. And then you type your message and tell us who you want it to go to. And we actually handwrite your message. So this is handwritten by a real life human being. We have artists around the US who send cards for you. So I guess the whole reason we kind of started Punkpost is we wanted people to be able to connect and make really memorable moments with each other, even when they can't be together. So that's kind of what it's all about.
And it is absolutely awesome. It's so fun to send these. It's so fun to receive these. I get the most amazing comments when I send them to people. And I actually have one right here that you and the team sent me. I believe after I talked about you at Inbound. And I mean, this thing, and I was going to ask you about this, but, I did what a lot of people do when they get cards like this sits hung up right in front of me at my desk so I can see it every day and smile at it and be inspired by it. And that just doesn't happen to an email that somebody sends me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is like a big thing that we continually hear from people and see is that, like, these cards, not only do they make an impression when they arrive in the mailbox, but people do hang them on their fridges, put them next to their desk. And it's like, whether it's a friend or a client, it's just like a nice memory. Like, oh, this person cares about me enough that they sent me a card. And yeah, it's just kind of like a good feeling.
Well, I'm going to put up the website here. It's punkpost.com. And as you saw me scrolling before, and I can certainly do it again, there are cards for all sorts of occasions, just like if you were going to a card store. You can see things for Mother's Day and Father's Day and birthdays and anniversaries, but there's also a lot of professional ones, which I really like because those are, they're a bit harder to find on the card rack at the store. But also, that is mostly what I use Punkpost for, is to send either a thank you note to a client, or I just had a couple of colleagues that got promoted, and so I sent them a congratulations card. And I just think it's such a great way to stay in touch with your customers, your clients, whoever you work with, in a personalized way that's really unexpected. And a lot of that comes from obviously the creativity of the designers and the handwritten part, but it also comes from the fact that you are using a channel, snail mail, that is maybe not as used as it was before. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, going back to the like making awesome moments, like we saw that mail, like, it does make these big impressions on people. But the other part of it that we saw is that, like, actually sending a card, even though it seems so simple, is actually kind of too many steps. So we talked to so many people where, like, professional or personal, they buy like these stacks of cards and they have all these great intentions of sending out cards to clients for their birthdays, their like house anniversaries if you're a realtor, or like your anniversary of working together. But that's the thing, they buy the cards and then they kind of sit in a desk drawer and never get sent. And then there's these feelings of guilt that you didn't like send it out on time. And I think another thing is some people are really self-conscious about their handwriting because we don't write that often. Not all of our handwriting is maybe as good as it would have been if we lived in a past time. So it's just like, and then there's also like getting postage and all this. So all these things kind of add up. They're really small, but they're enough when you're, trying to build your client base, or like you're just trying to make phone calls. Like, it's like, it does take a long time to write a card. So we were just like, how can we help people make good on their good intentions, their good intention of sending a card? So it is true. I think like mail is underutilized, or it's like utilized in a way that I think a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate. Like, I don't know, like, I feel like a lot of people like junk mail that they get like advertisements in, or like the fake handwriting type of thing. But I've had people tell me like, it kind of actually makes me mad when someone sends me that, because it's like they're trying to trick me, where we're kind of like, your message was so important that you hired an artist to write it to them. So yeah, I think just it is underutilized, or utilized not in the best way. So I think we're trying to like do something a little different, where like, yes, sending mail's a pain. We try to make it easier for you, and something that someone's gonna really be wowed about.
Yeah, so you touched on a lot of things there. I think the ease is definitely part of it. I mean, sending a punk postcard is basically like sending an email, because you just
Mm-hmm.
type in what you want to say and your artists do all the difficult work, which I think is awesome. I will also say the cost of sending a punk post is really not much more, if at all more, than buying a Hallmark card and driving to the store and putting a stamp on it and sending it out. And so I think it's a very cost effective method as well. Um, the mail for me, I have a special place in my heart for mail for two reasons, a couple reasons actually. Number one, when I was a kid, I don't know why, I always loved getting mail. And my mom used to laugh at me because I signed up for all these mailing lists just so I got mail. And there were days where I'd get more mail than my parents when I was, 12 years old or 10 years old. And I loved getting mail. And then my first job out of college was actually in the direct mail business. That's where I cut my teeth in marketing. I learned about direct mail, and absolutely loved it. And learned that there's a reason why we still get, for example, credit card offers in our
Mm-hmm.
mail. It's because it works. It's a channel
Mm-hmm.
that still works. But we also do get a lot of junk. And I would argue, in your particular case, when you send something like a punk postcard to somebody's work, what's different there is usually we get little to no mail at work. So almost anything we get, we're going to open, because it's like, yeah, it's put on our desk, and it's not like
Mm-hmm.
it's in a big stack of bills and catalogs. It's probably the only thing we got that day. And so I think that, I would imagine the open rate anyway is about 100%. Because nobody's going to toss that when they see it in their mailbox. But I think particularly sending it to someone's place of work when we're all back working in offices is a really effective way to get people's attention that you just can't do digitally, I don't think.
No, absolutely. And I think like also sending it at work is because I mean, you can also pick your handwriting style. So if you want something more just like black writing on white paper, we can do that. But like a lot of them are very colorful and fun. So not only do people definitely open them, hang them up, but they end up showing them to their coworkers too, which is kind of cool. And we have a lot of people say like one of our clients in particular, he's a home loan consultant, and he was telling me like whenever he goes to any like networking events and he meets realtors, he just like sends them a punk postcard to be like, nice meeting you. And so he was telling me about one in particular he sent, and he got a text like best card ever like a week later from this realtor. And then also she posted about it on Facebook, and like as nice as your email might be, maybe someone will screenshot it and post it, but it's just like fun to show like something you got in the mail that's super colorful. So people do post them online as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love to talk about things that are shareable. And this is a
Hmm.
fantastic example of that because, again, nobody takes, very rarely is somebody going to take your email and share it, other than maybe to forward it to somebody. But they're not
Hmm.
going to print it out and hang it on their cubicle. They're not going to put it on social media. But that's exactly what happens with Punk Post cards. And so if you think about it, you're at work, you're in a cubicle, you just got one of these cards, you hang it up on your cubicle. Now, everybody that walks by asks you about it, and you're going to tell them who sent it to you, right? So it's like continued brand awareness, which I think works really well. It's also just one of those things, I think you mentioned it, where we always talk about surprise and delight or going above and
Hmm.
beyond in customer experience. And this is such a simple way to do something that is surprising to somebody,
Hmm.
because even if you sent them a Hallmark card, that'd be pretty nice and it's handwritten and like that's surprising. But I was looking for an example, and I didn't want to show one that's got someone's actual address on it, but like even the envelopes are written in
Right.
awesome handwriting that like stand out,
Yeah.
and you are opening
Like,
that
here's
letter.
an example of
Yeah,
one.
there
So
you go.
yeah.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's a piece of mail where you're like, what is this?
Hmm.
And I think it makes such an impact. And I'm always looking for, and one of the reasons I use Punk Post as an example is I look to three things, sort of three filters when I teach companies about creating remarkable experiences. It has to be simple, practical, and inexpensive. Because if it's not those three things, first of all, you're not going to do it, right? So you'll never see me standing up on stage telling people what you really need to do is hire a private fireworks company and shoot off fireworks, for every one of your customers. I mean, no one's going to do that. They don't have the money to do that. It's too much trouble. It's too expensive. But finding simple, practical, and inexpensive ideas is really what makes all the difference. And Punk Post fits all three of those perfectly.
Yeah, we had another client tell me, I mean, I'm not going to say like I'm a sales expert. We just have a product that actually really helps sales. But one of our clients did tell me something similar, that he was like, my whole thing is like, take something small that I'm doing and make it extra. So I was sending handwritten cards, but I was just buying Hallmark cards and like signing my name. So it wasn't that impressive. So he was like, when I saw your company, I was like, oh, I'm already sending cards. I can spend a little bit more and make it extra. And he was also like, just to mirror what you're saying, like, you don't have to spend a ton of money to make a big impression on people. It's just
Yeah.
like something different.
And I'll say one of the reasons that, true fact, my family a couple of years ago, we all sort of made an agreement that we weren't buying each other Hallmark cards anymore for birthdays and stuff because, you get it, you look at it, you toss it in the recycling bin, it's $7 down the drain, right? And it
Hmm.
just doesn't, it's like, and it's funny because my daughter who's 12 loves to make her own cards, and my family. I mean, that's so much more valuable than a card that I bought at the store. And I think this is similar in the sense that you get this, and I'm guessing that this is not something that people open and then move to the recycling bin. They're going somewhere else because I mean, it's a piece of art basically. You don't
Hmm.
want to throw it away. And
Hmm.
I think that's what's so unique about it. Compared to even things that I guess could be considered your direct competition, which is going to the store and buying a pre-made card.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to go back, kids do really like cards too. And we have some people who send like cards to their clients' kids, like for
Uh-huh.
various reasons. We have one client, he's a realtor, and sadly, the family dog died. And so he
Aw.
sent like, oh, I'm thinking of you guys. And the daughter's in a wheelchair, and she put the card in her wheelchair and just carries it everywhere with her too. So, I mean, I think they end up being one, they look really great, but also just like getting a card, like you feel like this person really cares about me and was there like to celebrate and to think of me like during a hard time too. Like, yeah, they have a lot of
Absolutely.
impact.
Absolutely. And I can say for a fact that kids also like receiving your cards because I sent last year at overnight camp, I sent both of my kids a
Oh yeah.
punk postcard and they loved it. They were real popular in their cabin because no one else was getting something that cool in the mail. So I know they love it. Hey, my buddy Chris Strub is watching. Thank you, Chris. He mentioned, he says, all about creating that unique, valuable experience. Totally true. And that is absolutely true of the Punk Post experience. I do want to remind everybody watching live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter that if you comment on the video, we will see it right here. I can bring it up on the screen. If you have a question for Lex or for me, I'm happy to answer it live, and we'd love to hear from you. So if you do not use Punk Post yet, I'd like to know, how do you communicate with your clients or customers, and do you think it's working? And if not, by the way, I'm going to throw back up one more time, shameless plug for
Thank you.
punkpost.com. There it is. And Lex is not paying me, I swear. This is just an actual, it's just fun for me because there are certain companies. I talk about a lot of companies. I have a library of experiences that I've probably got 5 dozen different companies that I talk about. But there's a few that I'm just really passionate about because I'm a customer also.
Hmm.
I can go and talk about some companies that have put on amazing experiences that I've never myself experienced, and I can explain why they're amazing experiences. But I am a frequent customer. Well, I think I'm frequent. I don't know if you think I'm frequent, but I'm a frequent customer of Punk Post. And I can tell you, I have never sent a card and not had somebody respond enthusiastically to me. Oh my gosh, this was so nice of you. This was so cool. I've never seen anything like this before. And so when you think about it, if you're in sales or if you have just made a sale, or if you are, I mean, I don't think I'm in sales, but I'm I'm a solopreneur. And so when I work with clients, I sign a new deal or I finish a speech or a webinar with somebody, I send them a thank you note, and it's a whole lot easier and way more impactful for me to send them a Punk Post card. And so it just has become a part of what I do. And like I said, I had some colleagues that got promoted. I was like, well, I know what I'm going to do. And for that one, which I thought was cool, I don't know how new this is, but you also offer the opportunity to put in a gift certificate.
Mhm.
Tell me about that, because I just sent 3 of those out with gift certificates, and I thought that was obviously very welcomed as well.
Yeah, we just had a lot of people asking for gift options with their punk posts, and like, logistically we were like, oh, how do we make that work? But we were like, oh, gift certificates are super simple. So I think we released it last year right before the holidays, if I remember right. So it's probably been around for less than a year, but basically you can add whatever amount and you make a suggestion what you want them to spend it on, and then they can redeem a gift card for it. But yeah, it's been kind of nice. Other extras you can add, you can like confetti bomb, which Dan, I don't know if you ever do that or
I
suggest.
haven't. I want to talk to you about the confetti bomb, and maybe we'll take a vote from people watching here.
Okay,
But
yeah, I want to know that too. And you can have photos. So we have like some realtors, like when on closing day, they snap a photo like with their clients. And then like after a year, they'll be like, this was last year. Remember you closed on your house. So yeah, we kind of, I think we think of the Punk postcard as a gift in itself. Like just the card itself is something that people hang on to. So that's a gift. But like sometimes people want to send, especially now when we're all far apart from each other, like sending photos is really important. I think, yes, you can see them online, but it's nice to have a little printout that you can like put up on your desk. And then like the gift certificates is just super simple. And the confetti is like, I don't know, cringeworthy for some people and other people love it. So
well, the gift, and just to clarify, the gift certificate basically allows you to choose a gift card from a bunch of different brands.
mhm.
You have a ton of brands that are available, and so it's very flexible. And I had some fun in the little line that said, how to use it, because like I had somebody that is in an operations role, and I said use it for something operational, and I have someone in a
Oh,
design
that's
role and use it for something creative. And so I think that was that's pretty fun. I want to know. I'm going to bring up a couple comments in a minute. Thank you for all the comments, folks, and keep them coming. I want to know from people watching. So one of the options is a confetti bomb. Now, I am one of these people that I'm very strategic about the things that I do where I want to make sure that I don't ever do anything that I personally would not enjoy. And so I'll give you an example. We've talked about you on our podcast Experience This. One of the things that we did immediately when we started the Experience This show was to decide that we weren't going to make it an interview show, because
Mhm.
most business podcasts are interview shows. And we felt, if we're going to do a podcast on experience, we better make it an experience to listen to. And to do that, we have to do something different, right? And so I am sort of afraid that if I opened up a confetti bomb, it would not be something that I would really love. So I've been afraid to send one, but I would imagine because you have it, you have some pretty good examples where people do enjoy it.
I mean, I think it's just like, okay, the card's memorable, but then when you get a confetti bomb, you're like, oh my gosh. So you get an extra reaction. And I think some people just think it's fun. Like the sender usually thinks it's funny, obviously. That's why they're doing
Sure.
it. And sometimes the recipient does too. I mean, it's kind of like one of those love hates. I mean, I send them to people and they're always like, blasted, but they're also, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like a, I mean, I
It's
guess someone could get really angry, but I think most people are like, "Oh, you're pulling a joke on me," which I also feel like once you pull a joke on someone, it kind of like is like, "Oh, we're to that level of our relationship
yeah,
now where
and
I
it's
can
cute.
do."
It's
Yeah,
clearly well intentioned, right? It's
yeah.
not. So, Ryan, thank you so much for being here. Ryan's a former guest on our show. Awesome discussion. And Alicia, I hope I pronounced you right. Right, Alicia Bowling. My team and I have used Punkpost after hearing about it at Inbound. Yes,
Oh,
woohoo!
yay! Thank
We've used
you.
it in business interactions for both the thank yous and the celebratory moments. Love it, and so do they. That is awesome.
Oh, that's so
So
nice.
glad. Hey, I made you a sale. I'm not even a salesperson. That's
I
fantastic.
mean, I'm sure you've
Uh,
made me a lot, so thank you.
well, that's great, and I'm glad it's working too. Again, it's like it's one of these things that people are always looking for ways to stand out, and I think especially right now, in the time that we're living in, when we're all at home, there's a few things that this really touches on that I think is, we were talking before we went live that there's certain companies right now that are doing really well during COVID, and there are others that are obviously getting completely crushed. And the ones that are doing really well are either hitting on things that we need when we stay at home,
Mhm,
or they're hitting on, I think, certain emotional needs that people need. And one of the things we're all missing right now is human interaction.
mhm.
And so, how do we replace human interaction? Well, we go on video conference calls all day long, and that's something. But what I love about this is that it is so personal, and it is this one-to-one piece of communication that is thoughtful, that is, I mean, nobody's sending you a card to tell you that they don't like you or that, you did something wrong, right? So the message by definition is going to be positive. And I think it's just something that people really need right now. We need positivity. We need connection. So I would imagine, you tell me, but I would imagine that more and more people are finding you now, especially that we're at home.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we honestly weren't ready for it when COVID descended. I mean, we were kind of like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, I think, everyone, whether you had a business or not, kind of felt like that. So we were like, okay, let's just like see how this shakes up. But yeah, people really turned towards us because as a way to connect. I mean, they couldn't see grandparents, they couldn't see coworkers, so we were very, very busy. Like more than we could kind of handle, which was nice because it really solidified why we wanted to start Punk Post, is to like help people create moments together, bond, be there to encourage each other. And it really was so much encouragement. And that is like a nice thing about being behind the scenes at Punk Post. You see how many nice messages people send to each other. So yeah, it was a lot of connecting and, encouraging one another, which we're still seeing. I mean, I think at the beginning it was really blowing up, or maybe we've just gotten better at handling the load. But even now, as I know it's different in every state, but a lot of states, people still aren't going to work. And we have like people sending cards to coworkers, because at this point, like a lot of us haven't seen our coworkers for like 5 months or more. So it's like, oh, I mean, we've seen each other via Zoom, but like, not on a day to day like we used to. So we've seen a lot of offices kind of employing this thing called snail mail it forward. So like someone in their community team will send out cards and then they suggest that they send out to other people on their team. So kind of just like a team building thing. But yeah, I mean, it has been, I think, a great way for people to connect and send cards and photos to grandma and grandpa and things like that. So
Well, you mentioned that you saw an uptick and that you get to see behind the scenes. Ryan wants to know, have you seen an increase in certain types of cards during the pandemic?
yeah, definitely a lot more encouragement cards, kind of like "You're Stronger Than You Know" is one of our cards, and "Life is Tough," and so is you. So are you, is another one. So I think like a lot more encouragement cards have been going out than we had in the past.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, I always like to say this is the fastest half an hour on the internet because I feel like as soon as I'm getting rolling, it's time to end it. But thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for what you do to instill some happiness in the world when we really need it. And keep doing what you're doing. And I hope that lots more people see this and or read it in my book and come talk to you guys and order some cards.
Oh, absolutely. I also just want to say thank you so much too for being such a proponent for Punk Post all the time. We really appreciate it. So thank you, Dan.
My pleasure, Lex. Thank you so much. That's Lex Monson. She is the founder and CEO of Punkpost. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. Next week, we are going to have Diane Major. She is the founder and chief experience officer of the Experience Catalysts, and somebody that I met fairly on the recent side and thought she was really interesting and obviously in the CX space. So we'll have a great conversation next week. I am Dan Gingiss, and if you want to get a hold of me, you can go to www.dangingiss.com. And I also want to let you know really quickly that I have a biweekly newsletter where I send out tips, tricks, and articles about customer experience. I only do it twice a month for exactly what I was telling Lex before. I don't like getting tons of email. I don't like getting junk mail. And so I only do it twice a month. I promise I will not fill up your email box. So there's a bit.ly link there if you'd like to sign up for the newsletter. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next Thursday and every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern on LinkedIn and Twitter, and sometimes on Facebook when we decide to go there as well. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week on The Experience Maker.